Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you all are with me today. Today's video is going to be my August mid-month wrap-up. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I've been having a fantastic reading month so far. I think I've read about 10 books in the first half of August, which is amazing. But what's also amazing is that I've read three, I was about to say I read five-star reads. That would be awesome. But I've read 3 5-stars already for the month of August. If you know me, if you've been watching my channel, I feel like, and I say this about myself, I feel like I'm a pretty stingy 5-star rater. It takes a lot for me to rate something 5 stars. I have to really love it, or it has to like just blow me away. Or it has to be something that stays with me for a while. It takes a lot for me to rate a book 5 stars. So the fact that I have 3 already for the first half of August just feels like so good. I'm so happy. I've been reading some really great romances. I've read some also not so great books, but we'll get into that. Yeah, so we're just gonna dive right into all of these books because I'm sure this video is going to take forever since I have 10 books to talk about. Okay, so starting off, first book that I read in August is going to be Viper by Naomi Lucas. This is a sci-fi romance. This is a monster alien romance set far off in the future. This is kind of a like post-apocalyptic almost. So this takes place years in the future. Earth is thought to have been inhabitable, however you say that word, because there was like nuclear war with some aliens, and basically everybody died except for humans that were up in space. So humanity is still alive, but they've just not been on Earth. So we have this like research group coming back to Earth because they found this spot on Earth that is actually green and actually has life to it. So they're going back to Earth to try to find some old technology, I guess, to try to, because they're in a war with this new alien race out in space. So they're trying to find some old technology to try to help them with this war. So when they land on Earth, they find that there are actually living intelligent species living on Earth. We find that there's the Naga, which is this alien half man, half snake species that has been living here on Earth. And all of their females have either like died or they have like gone off and like ran away. And that's just pretty much all you hear about it, is that just they don't have any females where they're at. So the king of this group has made a deal with the humans that they will give them some of the technology that they're wanting if they hand over some of their human females, so that they can have females to sort of potentially maybe repopulate. So that is kind of the backstory of this series and what's going on with this one, Viper. We have, and I don't remember, there's this one, I can't remember his name, but the male alien in this one, he sees this girl. I think her name is Gemma. She has red hair, and he is a red, like, viper looking like guy, and he decides that since she's red, he's like immediately entranced by her. He definitely like wants her to be his mate. And they end up taking these women, and it's a whole like ordeal, and there's other stuff going on, but like in this first one you just kind of get more like surface level things. We dive a little bit more into other things that might be going on, I think, in later books. Anyway, I've talked enough about this one. This one I gave 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it. I didn't care for. There's definitely some dubious consent in here. The male is definitely like an alpha male kind of character, but he also doesn't necessarily take the time to really understand the woman, our heroine of the story. There's definitely thoughts of she's mine, she's mine, she's mine. I don't know. I did still enjoy this story, but him I didn't like as much. I wish he would have made some different choices, if that makes sense. But yeah. Then I read American Squire by Simone. This is a novella that takes place after the new Camelot series about Ryan. He was the personal aide to the president, and things have happened in the last book of the new Camelot series that I can't really say. Definitely do not read this on its own. You have to have at least read the last book of the new Camelot series. So he is going to England to acquire a book that Merlin is wanting, and while he's there he meets this art dealer. I think he's an art dealer, and they really like each other and kind of decide that they're going to start a relationship together. So that's basically what this one is. Like I said, like it's very, just hit myself in the face. It's very short, medium steam. This is a male romance. I gave it 4 stars. This features Ryan is more of a service submissive, so he likes being of service to his dominant. So yeah, so that. Then I read Soul Eater by Mayne. This is the first book in her Monstrous series. This is another sort of post-apocalyptic kind of Earth, where there has been holes that have been ripped in the world, I guess, and monsters have come through to Earth. So we have Danny. He has joined the army, basically because that's his only option. Otherwise, his other option is to live in the cities around the coast of America and basically starve, because that's just how it is. So he decides to join the army to try to survive, and he meets this monster known as the Soul Eater. We find out his name is actually Win, and he's like this, perceived anyway, as this big bad monster. He kills tons of humans. They've been trying to capture him, and he's within like the very first chapter we get to, Danny is part of this ploy to try to capture this guy. So they do end up capturing him, and the Soul Eater, they're trying to question him and figure out why he's killing all these people, like if he has like some sort of method for picking the people that he tries to kill, you know, how they can stop him from killing all these people. So he will only answer questions for Danny. And then the Soul Eater breaks out. This all happened like within the first like few chapters. So the Soul Eater breaks out and gives Danny a choice, like, hey, you can come with me, you can go out into the waste, which is like the middle part of America, go out to the waste alone, or you can stay here and potentially get charged for letting me go. So Danny decides to go with the Soul Eater, and just, again, this is all about survival. All Danny is trying to do is just live and survive the best way, that with the choices that he is given. And then they start to talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit more, and it just turns into the absolute sweetest romance ever. I gave this 5 stars. I loved this book so much. Both of these heroes are absolute cinnamon rolls. They're very caring towards one another. You find that the Soul Eater is definitely misunderstood, and Danny finds that out. The Soul Eater, when he is very patient with Danny, and like I said, just very caring towards Danny, and it's just, it's so sweet, and I loved it. There's also a lot of steam to this. Steam on this is going to be high. I'm in love with this book. I loved it so much, and I really need to get on to the other books of this series because I've heard really good things about the rest of the series too. So I'm excited to do that. I haven't read it yet. Then I read King Cobra, which is the second book in the Naga Bride series by Naomi Lucas. So this is about Zaku, who is the king of the Naga. He is actually a king cobra, is his like snake that he's kind of like. And he is wanting his very own queen to be with him. So he finds Daisy, and he is enraptured by Daisy. But after she's taken by Zaku, Daisy is very determined to try to figure out a way back to her group of researchers and then also get back up into space to the ship that she's from. But she has some issues that she's kind of working with on herself. She doesn't really think very highly of herself. I think she was in the army and got like dishonorably discharged because she was a pilot employed like out in space, and they were supposed to be fighting the other like aliens that they're at war with. And I think she got into either an escape pod or something to go rescue these children that she found, and basically abandoned her whole, like the rest of her team and crew to go save these little kids. And so these little kids and her were the only one that survived. So she got dishonorably discharged for that, even though I was like, she's so like compassionate. I'm just like, of course, like why wouldn't you go save these little children? Like they're more important, but whatever. I know. So I gave this one 4 stars. I like this one a lot better than the first one. A big part of that is because Zaku, he definitely has the same kind of vibes, I guess, as the hero from the first book. Definitely that alpha male, we're gonna do this my way kind of thing. But I feel like he does some stuff that I don't really care for, but he also apologizes for those, and he learns from his past mistakes with Daisy. He definitely wants Daisy to be a queen, and I feel like by the end of this she is. I think she definitely becomes a stronger character by the end of this, so I also love that. Yes, I really loved these 2 characters. And yes, there's more books in this series, and I'm kind of like on the fence on if I want to continue this one because I did really like this one. Just not so sure how I feel about some of the others. And then also, it's kind of weird to me. The third book, the heroine of that story, her name is my name. Her name is Shelby, and Shelby is one of those names that's not as common, I feel like. So anytime I read it in a story, it just is very jarring for me. So I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see. There is trigger warnings in this one for attempted rape. There's violence and gore in this one. Steam on this is going to be medium high. And yeah, I really liked some King Cobra. It was very good. Then I read Neon Gods by Katee Robert. This is the first book in her Dark Olympus series. That is her current series that she is working on. This current traditionally published series, which is awesome for her. So I read this because I wanted to try to at least start the series, because I did go to an author signing that Katee Robert was at. So I got to meet Katee Robert, and it was very fun. It was for her newest release in this series, Cruel Seduction, I think that's like the 4th. I think it's like the 4th or 5th book of this series. Anyway, so I hadn't read this series yet. So I picked up this one. I started this one. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, but this is in a more like contemporary world on Olympus that is ruled by the 13. And basically all of the Greek god like names like Hades, Demeter, Zeus are more like power names, I guess. Like they get handed down from like father to son, like as they rise to in the ranks, or I'm really not doing a great job describing this. But basically, like, once Zeus dies, his son will take over that role and he will be known then as Zeus. Like, he will become the new Zeus, I guess. Anyway, so this is about Hades and Persephone. Hades is... everybody believes that he's just dead, like he's just not existent anymore. And Persephone, her mother Demeter, has made this deal and arrangement where she is going to marry Zeus, but Persephone does not want to marry Zeus because she's heard of different things that Zeus does. His past 3 wives have died, and she does not want to continue that trend. She's just put off by him, so she escapes and goes down to the lower city where Hades is supposed to rule over, and runs into Hades and finds out that he hasn't been dead. He's just been kind of like laying low. So they strike this bargain to fake date. 1, to piss off Zeus. 2, it's supposed to like help protect Persephone, and then it's also as a way for Hades to kind of get revenge on Zeus because he believes that Zeus killed his parents. So yes, I give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I really love a good Hades and Persephone retelling. It's one of my favorite Greek mythology retellings, so I think this one is probably one of my favorites. The steam on this is very high, of course, for a Katee Robert book. You know it's going to be high steam, which I love that. There's definitely elements of dominance and submission between Hades and Persephone. They go to a sex club together and end up having sex in front of a bunch of people. So there's that whole exhibitionism and some voyeurism in there too. So it's very kinky, very sexy. And yeah, I really like this one. Then we have Pretty Little Tease by AJ Merlin. This is more of a romantic suspense type story. So we have our heroine Blair. She is in the last year of college, and she is going to take this photography class for an elective that she needs to get done, and she's kind of nervous about it because she's heard that the professor is really hard on his students. He's very mean. So she's, like I said, she's very nervous about this. And then in class she ends up meeting this guy who's very nice to her, Oliver. He is auditing the class and he offers to help Blair through this class. Offers her some pointers. They kind of become like friends, sort of. And then she is also intrigued by, she keeps watching this cam site where people can like, you know, like the whole like sex worker like camming. I don't know if that's actually a word, but we're gonna go with it. And she decides to become a cam girl for some extra money while she is in college. But then there's also some other like mysterious things going on. There is this girl that is found murdered, and Blair is very suspicious because she looks oddly like her roommate and best friend. So she's not really sure what's going on with that. Yes, I don't really want to say too much more, so I gave this 5 stars. I devoured this book, and I think part of that, I went in like almost totally blind. I read the blurb for it, which didn't really give you a whole lot of information about what was going to happen in this book. it just said that ends up being an MMF story. And yeah, I just went in blind, and I'm so glad I did, because I was blown away by this story. This is one of those books that I stayed up late reading, and I was texting my friend about what was going on. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And I was like telling her theories about what I was thinking was going to go, how things were going to go, what I thought was going to happen. And I was just like, oh, like it was like giving me like heart palpitations almost. Like I was so anxious reading this, trying to figure out what was going on, because I was like, I thought she had a stalker, and I was trying to figure out who the stalker was and what else was going on. So there are definitely lots of trigger warnings in this. There is trigger warnings for murder, of course. There's stalking. The heroes of this story are definitely of the morally gray variety. Steam on this, I would say, is like medium to high. We don't get as much steam as I was expecting, but there is steam in here. And I am very much looking forward to the second book of this series. I think this is going to end, I think I read somewhere that this is going to end up being a trilogy, which makes me sad because I don't know when the third book is going to end up coming out, but she just released the second book and I am dying to read it. I cannot wait. This was just, it was so good. So definitely recommend reading this one if you like more of that kind of suspenseful, kind of, you don't really know what's going on kind of storyline with steam to it. Then I read A Lesson in Thorns by Simone. So this is the first book of her Thorn Chapel series. So this that I read actually kind of ties the New Camelot series then into this series, because Ryan, where he's going to England to get this book, is actually the setting for this series and this book. So we have Poe. She is our main female character of this book. And she is going to England to Thorn Chapel to kind of archive the library that is there. And she's kind of nervous about this because she knows she's going to end up running into the guy that owns this house. And she knows him. When she was a little girl, her and her family were actually at this house with a bunch of other people while her parents were doing something. She doesn't know what. She just remembers that she played with the other kids. So one of the other kids that she played with is actually now the owner of the house. So she's nervous about this because she is attracted to him and knows that she's attracted to him, but then she finds out that he is engaged to somebody else in this like friend group. And she's also going back there because she is wanting to try to find any clues to her mother's disappearance. So her mother disappeared like 10 years ago, prior to this story taking place, and hasn't ever heard from her mother, and she's wanting to figure out if she can find out what happened or where her mother might be at. This I gave 4 stars. I think I like this book, and I feel like just because I know how Simone's like other books and series are, I have a feeling that we're only getting like surface level things for the most part in this book, and I'm excited to continue reading this series because I haven't read this series before. I think I have actually read this one before, but I haven't read the rest of the series before. There's definitely BDSM in this. Poe is a submissive, but she's also a virgin. She has a dom where she lives, but it was just for like pain. She never got any kind of, and she got satisfaction from that, but she's never actually had sex. I've also heard that this friend group is like, that everybody in this friend group is bisexual. So I'm kind of curious how that's gonna go, if it's gonna end up being like everybody has sex with everybody else, but then there's also tons of like the kink in there, because several people in this group, well, there's at least a couple people in this group find that they are dominant. There are several people in this group that find that they are submissive, and we'll see how it goes. I'm thinking, theory-wise, I'm thinking it's going to end up being Poe is going to be in an MMF relationship with like her and 2 other guys. And then I think there's going to end up being a female-female relationship. And then there's also just this other guy that I'm not sure if he's going to end up joining and being in a relationship with one of these people, or if he's just going to continue to be this like lone wolf kind of figure that sometimes does some like sexy times like as a group. So steam on this is definitely high, and I'm expecting the rest of the series to be very high. I don't know, I'm very intrigued on where we're going with this. Then I read The Anti-Hero by Sara Cate. This is the first book of a new series that she has. I think it's going to be called The Good Brothers. I could be wrong on the series title, but this is a new book of hers. This follows Adam. He is the son of a preacher. He is the oldest son of a preacher, and he is expecting to follow in his father's footsteps. He has been writing sermons for his father for a while, and his father's getting a little bit older. So Adam is like 37, so he's very much expecting for his father to turn over the reins to him. So he ends up going to this meeting with his father, and is expecting that, and only for his father to tell him that he's no longer going to be using his son for writing his sermons, and tells his son to go off and do his own thing, and has no intentions of giving over the reins to his son. So Adam's kind of devastated by this, because he feels that he's known as like the good son. He always does what his father wants. Always, anything that he does is to please his father. So he is thrown off by this, doesn't really care for this. He goes to this diner that he always goes to on the weekends to have breakfast, and is kind of blown away, and he keeps thinking about this woman that he meets, and she is pierced, she has tattoos, she has pink hair, she's just kind of the spitfire wild girl that he knows he isn't anything going to happen between them, because she is not what you would typically think of or see as a like preacher's wife or a good Christian woman. But she gives him this card to the sex club, and he's just like, you know what, whatever. He's kind of lost, and he ends up going to the sex club, where he finds his father. Finds that his father has been going to the sex club and cheating on his mother for who knows how long. And this just breaks Adam, because he feels like everything he thought he knew was good in the world, and how he was supposed to behave and be a good man, is like turned upside down, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. But he's also just full of so much rage towards his father. So he meets Sage again. So she is the pink-haired woman that he met before, and he strikes up a deal with Sage to fake date and to put out a bunch of like sex tapes on the internet to try to ruin his father's reputation, and bring him down a peg, basically, or a few pegs if he can. And then Sage, on the other hand, is also motivated by revenge, by getting with Adam, because she has broken up with her ex-boyfriend, who owns the sex club, but she also kind of owns the sex club with him, but she made the mistake of not putting her name on the business deal or the deed for this place, and she's pissed off because she thinks her ex-boyfriend is ruining the club, is gonna bring it under. So she is wanting revenge against her ex-boyfriend by dating Adam. Yes, so I loved this book. I gave this 5 stars. There was definitely some times in the story that I did not really like Adam. He has some thoughts towards Sage that I was not okay with. Specifically thoughts when he's with her, like after they have sex for the first time, or then when they're like faking being together, where he's looking at her and he thinks, oh, she would be so beautiful if she didn't have all these tattoos, or she would make a great person for me to be with if she wasn't the way that she was. And that pissed me off, not gonna lie. I hated that. But the reason I gave this 5 stars is that Adam, I feel like, definitely redeems himself for this. He is definitely going through a journey with this book, and he does have really good character growth. And by the end of it, he definitely learns from some of his past thoughts, because a lot of that, I feel like, he has been indoctrined into his brain. And Sage even says that like he's been like brainwashed his whole life, and he is having to relearn himself and who he is, and then also having to relearn what is good, what is the definition of good, what do good people look like, what do bad people look like, what is the definition of being bad, is it okay to be bad, and just kind of relearning all of that. And I loved seeing his journey. I loved that Sage was helping him through this journey. And then I just absolutely loved, I feel like the last like 75% of this book was just a huge aftercare kind of scenario. So if you've read any kind of like BDSM stories, you know, when they're playing and they're in a scene and they're doing some really hard stuff, especially if there's any kind of like beating or anything like that, then you have aftercare after it to make sure that everybody is okay. And that's just the last part of this book felt like that. And it's just so like warm and gives me all these like cozy kind of feelings and loving kind of feelings, and I really like that, which was needed because there is a lot of kink in this book as well. There is a lot of degradation in this. They do some like hard stuff when they are doing some sexy times, and it was so good. Steam on this is very high. There's also some trigger warnings in here for assault. So just be aware of that. But yeah, I absolutely love this one. I cannot wait for the next book of this series, so this is going to follow. Adam is the oldest of 4 brothers. So the next book of the series is going to be another brother, and I'm so excited for it. I feel like Sarah Kate right now, anything she writes is gold. I am loving all of her stuff. It's been so good. Now, I wish I could end this on a high note with the anti-hero, but the last couple of books, I have 2 more books to kind of talk about. They were not as good for me, but hopefully the rest of August is going to be amazing. So then I read The Wedding of Molly O'Flaherty. I feel like I'm going to say that really wrong, but whatever. By Simone. This is the second book of this Molly O'Flaherty series. This is a historical romance that Simone wrote. More books in her historical romance kind of stuff is right here. I read the first one a long time ago, and I decided I needed to finish it because this, I mean, is a very, very short book. It's basically novella length of a book. But this is about Molly. She runs a company, a shipping company, and basically her board is kicking her off of the board, like, so that she cannot own her company anymore unless she gets married, because they say that because she's a woman, she needs to be married or she can't run her business, which is bullshit, but that's how it was. So she is supposed to marry her friend. Doesn't really like that she's marrying her friend because he doesn't respect her. And she finds out that he's only marrying her for her money. And then there's some other stuff that's going on about that he's related to this guy that assaulted her when she was younger. Anyway, so then we also have Silas, who is the hero of this story, who's another friend of hers that she likes to have sexual interactions with. They had some kinky times in the first book of the series. And he wants to help Molly, but she's very independent and doesn't want anybody to help her. She wants to help herself. so they have to work through that. But he comes up with this plan for him and some of his friends to buy up some shares of her company and then to marry her and let her continue to rule and have all the reins that she wants so she can keep her company. So that's kind of what's going on, and we just kind of resolve all those issues. In this book, I gave this 3 stars. It was okay. Nothing that really wowed me. It's definitely not one of my favorite Sara Simone stories. I was also a little bit disappointed in this one because we know from Molly and Silas from her other books of her series, they like to, and they also talk about it while they're having sex together, about how much they like group activities and having scenarios with other people involved as well. We don't get any of that in this story, so I was kind of disappointed by that because that's what I was going into this expecting to happen, because they have said that they like doing that. But whatever. Trigger warnings in this one. There is death of a loved one in this one. Steam on this is very high. It was an okay book. Then the last book that I read for the first half of August is going to be The Once and Future Witches by Alix E. Harrow. I read this as part of, I'm in a very small like book club with some people from my work and some friends. And this is the book that everybody voted on and picked for August, because it's like a witchy book. Anyway, so this takes place in like 1890 something. This is about 3 sisters. They have been apart for a while, but they are all coming back together to try to bring forth a new age of witchcraft and witching, because it has all died out supposedly by these witch hunters and all these witches being burned at the stake. And so they're trying to bring it back in New Salem. And there's also some suffragists that they decide to somewhat join because they want to bring power back to women, is basically what's going on in this one. This is a historical fantasy, so this is not a romance whatsoever, and I think that's part of why I did not really like this book. I give this book 2 stars. I was very disappointed in this. I was completely bored throughout this entire story. I thought it would be a little bit better because it's like witches and that's really cool, but just the storytelling, I don't know, I just couldn't jive with it. Like I said, I was very bored throughout the whole book. It was a struggle to get through this book. If this was not a book for my book club that I'm a part of, I 100% would have DNF'd this story and not finished it whatsoever. I also just didn't really connect to any of the characters. Like, they have the 3 sisters. I did kind of like that they're supposed to be representations of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, which is a big symbol. Supposedly that is called, like, the triple goddess is a deity that is worshipped sort of in Wicca, but it's also just kind of a symbol, big symbol in witchcraft and Wicca. So I did kind of like that they're supposed to be representations of that, but otherwise I just really didn't care for any of these sisters. I couldn't connect to them. All of them were very like selfish and trying to do their own thing. And I don't know, I just didn't really care for any of them. Yeah, I just don't think this is for me. I can read some books that don't have romance in them and really love them, but for the most part, it needs to have some sort of romance, and I also didn't really care for the ending of this. It just was a big flop for me. And I'm really sad by that. So I'll be talking about that when I do have my book club meeting at some point. But yes, there we go for this very big long video of all the books that I read in the first half of August. If you like this video, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below with some of the books that you've been enjoying in August and let me know what I should check out. I'm really looking forward to the rest of August to see what books I can read and hopefully find some more really good romances, really good books in general. I'm really excited about it. But yeah, so anyway, I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.